Greetings, fellow gamers. Next up on Man vs. Pixels, I've been playing Greedfall. Greedfall is a character RPG. It's set in a fantasy world, but it's similar to sort of Renaissance Europe, late Renaissance Europe, sort of 16th, 17th century, maybe even a little bit later in the sort of technology and style of weapons and armor and architecture and everything they've got, but it is a fantasy world. You play a specific character called Desade, who is a diplomat of an outfit called the Congregation of Merchants. You're sent to a new continent to establish trade and settlements, and that is the basic beginning premise of the game. At the beginning of the game, you've got some basic character creation options. You can go male-female, no transgender or fluid options, I'm afraid, so create as much hell for them on Twitter as you feel you need to for the lack of those kind of options. But personally, I think male and female is perfectly reasonable for a computer game. We don't need to fucking have everything, do we? Different face templates. That's quite basic options, but the face templates can't be modified with like little sliders for your size of your nose and your shape of your eyes, like in a sort of maybe in a Bethesda or a sort of bigger RPG game, but just about a dozen different face templates. Then you've got a bunch of hairstyles, again maybe a dozen or so hairstyles, skin tone, and then you can start picking your beginning character sort of attributes, your archetypes. It's kind of like a basic strength, agility, magic sort of deal. Main weapons are going to be different types of melee weapons, blades, one-handed, two-handed, blunt weapons, one-handed, two-handed, and ranged, including magic and muskets, guns, pistols, and rifles, but all in the category of flintlock kind of muskets. So once you've created your character, you start off by being sent to this new continent. You play a little bit of an intro. You are like the cousin of the prince of your faction, so that makes your uncle the king. And you and your cousin are being sent to this new continent to establish, well, you've already established a outpost, but your cousin is now being given the position of governor, and you are going with them as the position of legate, which is like the diplomatic position. There are a few other factions in the game. One's called the Bridge Alliance. These are your sort of military technology and science kind of archetypes. Theleme is another faction. These are more like your religious zealot inquisitors, but still militaristic too. And then once you get to the island, there's the natives of the island, and these represent your sort of shamanic, earthy, balance type sort of native Indians. Like I said, your Congregation of Merchants faction is more interested in sort of trade and commerce and like diplomacy in the name of capitalism. So you don't just have yourself, you can get companions in this game to fight with you. You start off with one, and he's your old sort of instructor, man-at-arms type character, and you collect more as the story goes on. You can have a party of up to 3, including you, so use yourself and 2 more companions. The companions are pretty much all AI controlled. You don't get to micromanage or even give them basic commands or use skills or anything for them. They will fight completely under their own AI. You can equip them though with gear and weapons, but when they level, you don't get any choice and for picking their skills or anything. They will just go with. It's not like they've got a big skill tree or anything like you. I think it's a set progression for each character when they level what attribute they'll get. I think they've got a much more pared down skill tree to you. But yeah, you get no control over it anyway. But the AI seems good enough. They fight well enough and don't usually go and do anything too stupid. And you can heal them when you you can use an item that will heal or resurrect them as well. So during combat they can be healed, and if they die they can be resurrected with just the use of an item, and they'll get back to fighting. It's pretty quick, so not really any issues there. Your leveling is done basically on three different places. You get a skill point, an attribute point, and a talent point. These are parcelled out. You get a skill point every level you level up. You get an attribute point like every 3 levels, I think, and a talent point every 4 levels, I think it is. A little bit stingy, like most of the time when you level up you just got 1 skill point to assign. It's not that exciting of a moment when you level up thinking, oh, what am I going to get now? Most of the skill tree is based around your different weapons or magic, and like most of the nodes in the skill tree are just like basic X percentage damage increase, X percentage armor increase, or something like that, until you get to like a big node, which then could be a new type of attack or a new type of defense. But it's all right. It's not too in depth, and like I say, it's not too exciting, but it's all right. It's all right. Pretty basic, but you know, it's something at least. But it is a bit of a slow, stingy leveling system, I'd say. But there again, you don't get overwhelmed. You know, you can plan out exactly. It's not like a Path of Exile leveling system. You can pretty much quite easily see where you're going with this leveling system and what's going to benefit you, according to the weapons and that you're going to use. So the quests in this game are very, very detailed. They're very story rich. There's not a lot of them, but they are usually many steps along the way for each quest. There's no like simple go here, kill X of these, or go there and gather Y of this. It's the quests always are grounded in the story, and there's always a reason in the story to be doing the task which you've been set. So this is a theme of the game as a whole. It's a very story-rich game and a very story-focused game. So yeah, the quests are sometimes a little bit long-winded. Maybe like just two steps too long, maybe like just a couple of more steps of doing something that you think, oh, did I really need to do this? Did I really need to do this? Is this step of the quest really necessary? With lots of talking and a fair bit of travelling, a fair bit of schlepping about. The combat is there, and there is a decent amount of combat in the game. It's fairly basic though. It's based on just simple attack, dodge, parry, with a few other things thrown in. Really only sort of 1, maybe 2 attack types, depending on what weapon branch you've chosen to focus on. And then a dodge and a parry. You can do other stuff. The character I was using could put down traps. You could throw, once you've got to the point in the skill tree, you could throw grenades. And you can use different types of potions and things any time in combat to either heal yourself, buff yourself, that kind of thing. The weapons are basically swords, axes, hammers, pistols and rifles, muskets. And if you're going for a magic user, your weapon is like a magic ring, which is basically your ranged attack. You use the ring to throw magic stuff at your enemies, and you've got like a couple of other magic attacks that maybe like do a blast and stun your enemies nearby and that kind of thing. The enemies themselves are all like either beasts or humans. So around the environment, you might find a bunch of like bear type creatures or winged big bat type creatures, and humans of the various factions, or just various like bandit, hoodlum type humans around the island. And there's a few like mini boss and unique story boss type enemies as well around the island. You'll find some of these big mini bosses they call guardians. There's a few of them to defeat, and then there's some unique story quest related bosses too. The loot comes in a basic 3-tier loot system, sort of colour coded green, purple and gold. The good stuff I found was mostly like either quest rewards or vendor bought. You know, I didn't find much good stuff in like drops from defeated enemies. Most of the stuff I was picking up from defeated enemies was like crafting materials or just like stuff, just vendor trash, just stuff you're going to throw away or sell or dismantle for more crafting materials. The crafting is another 3-tier system, but it's not weapons, it's upgrades to weapons and armor. That's like what you craft, or the potions and traps that you can use in combat. You can craft them too. They both require 2 different attributes. Crafting the weapon upgrades requires your crafting skill, and crafting the potions and traps requires the science skill. So you can do both, but you can't have both like maxed out immediately. You've got to decide what one you want to follow. So you could basically craft like green, purple and gold upgrades to go in your armor, to go in your weapon, depending on your level. So it's not like a massive looter game. It's not like loot flowing out like a pinata of every mob you kill. I mean, there is like say loot about, but it's mostly like the standard crafting materials and stuff. Nearly all the good stuff I got was quest rewards or bought from vendors, and the stuff in vendors seems to go up in quality as you level up. So a vendor you see at the beginning of the game might only have rubbish, but if you see him 10 levels later, his stock should have improved to sort of match your current level. So always check with vendors after you've leveled up a bit, because they might have something higher level, something a higher tier that you can now buy and use. So the exploration of the environment is most of the game, I'd say. Like, you travel around, every time you go somewhere, it'd be like, for the first time, it'll be a new environment you need to uncover. There's like 3 major cities on the continent, and then within the continent there's like a load of different other areas for you to uncover. It's not an open world. You go to like different spots on the map where you can travel, and location will be unlocked for you to travel to when you've got a quest to go there, basically. So you'll go to like a travel location, it'll bring up the continent map, and there'll be a new place you can click on to travel to. And if it's the first time you've travelled there, you'll be transported to the first spot, and then the environment will be there for you to explore and uncover. In doing so, you'll have some combat, you'll run across some beasts, you'll probably run across some bandits, and you'll find like probably a village of natives to talk to and to maybe get some quests from. And it's pretty much done like that in several different, quite a fair few different locations around the map where you travel to for different reasons and start exploring the first time you go there. So some of them are fairly large, but they are all isolated and enclosed in their own area. It's not an open world by any means. There's a few surprises to be found in the open wilderness, but and a few spots where you won't be able to get to, but you come back to later once there's a quest or something to go there. You'll notice them. You'll see something that looks, oh, this little area, there's nothing here, it's off the beaten path, there's nothing here right now, but it looks far too designed for it to just be nothing. And then a little bit later you'll get a quest to go back there and there'll be something going on there.
Your Excellency.
So the gameplay then is heavily skewed towards dialogue and story rather than combat and action. Kind of makes sense considering the character you are playing is a diplomat, and that comes through quite a lot in a lot of the story and the default dialogue that your character says that you don't get a choice with. He's definitely leaning towards trying to find diplomatic solutions, but there are some choices to be made where you can choose combat and you can choose betraying a side that you said you'd do something for, but it is heavily skewed towards story rather than fighting. Can get a little tedious, like I said, with some of the quests just seeming to have one or two too many steps. One more, now I'll go talk to this guy part where you think, ugh, was that really necessary? It's not difficult. None of the combat was too difficult. You can have plenty of potions once you can craft them yourselves. You can have plenty of health potions, plenty of resurrection potions. They're the only two you need, really, but you can do the other stuff as well, and that can keep you topped up and keep your companions topped up and revived in combat. So combat ain't too difficult, and you know the dialogue itself is not too difficult, as in like to negotiate where you're gonna what to do and negotiate treaties and stuff and pacts and alliances. The design of it all is, like I said, very sort of late Renaissance looking. Each faction has their own different aesthetic and different voice kind of acting and different sounding people. The environments look good, the characters look good, the armour and weapons look good and get better as you get higher level or as you use higher quality armor and weapons. When you craft your upgrades to them, they change slightly and look better, so that's quite nice. And the writing and the voice acting both very good as well, and it would have to be because there is a lot of dialogue in this game. So if they fucked up on the writing and the voice acting, this game would go downhill rapido. But it's not. It's good voice acting and good writing, so that makes the dialogue worth listening to. So, in conclusion, I'd say it's a decent sort of mid-tier game, decent mid-tier single-player experience. It's not by any means like a big Elder Scrolls or a Witcher or anything like that, but it is, you know, let's say a mid-tier. It's a complete working game, which is more than a lot of AAA releases are these days. I had no stability or bug issues, so it's all works and it all didn't fuck up or anything. I feel there's enough content to justify the price, which is like £43, something like that. Let me check on the store page. $43.99 full price. I feel there's enough content there if you like a more story-driven game. Maybe wait for it to come out on a sale for a little bit off, but I feel the size of the game and the content of the game, I took 46 hours and I completed it, completed the story, and I feel that's a decent rate return on my $43.99 investment to get 46 hours gameplay out of it. But just beware, if you want a like action heavy loot fueled RPG, this isn't that. Okay, this is a story rich sort of dialogue focused RPG. It can be a little slow with fairly basic combat, but a pretty decent world and decent characters and everything else I've said. But it's not a massive combat loot fueled RPG. So just bear that in mind before you sink any money or time into it. So that was Greedfall. Thanks for watching.